reject that idea as a dangerous concept of moral relativism as well. A dangerous illusion. We are all Cylons. Every one of us is a Cylon, and every one of us is a colonial. And you have to get rid of the idea of good guys and bad guys, because the truth is, today I may be victimized, tomorrow I may be a victimizer. And the only solution to that is to operate on the basis of a common set of norms that are universally agreed, that apply to me and that apply to you, whether you like me or not, whether you agree with me or not. We're not moving in that direction. In the film clip, when I heard the actress scream, "We're going the wrong way," I wanted to join her in screaming, "We are going the wrong way. We need to get back to the essential mission of the Universal Declaration." I'll just close with this. Ron Moore, I read an interview with you where you described the BSG experiment as essentially an examination of what would happen if society was wiped out. What kind of society would we then want to replace it? What kind of a society we'd want to build? And human rights lawyers are used to this idea. It's a kind of a Rawlsian analysis. You know, Rawls said that if we were blind and we had to do the ordering of society and we didn't know that we were going to be the rich or the poor or the powerful or the weak or the black or the white, what kind of rules would we put in place? And the answer, and by the way, Rawls, I mean John Rawls, the legal philosopher, not Lou Rawls, although Lou Rawls had it pretty right when he said we all need somebody to lean on, but that's a different discussion. You know, this essential idea absolutely underpins BSG. It also underpins the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says very explicitly in Article 28, let me be a human rights lawyer, where it reads, "We are all entitled to a social and international order in which all of the rights and freedoms in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights can be fully realized, regardless of race, sex, language, religion, or I suppose your place in the Cylon colonial divide." So I would suggest that this is the mythical earth for which we are all searching, the mythical earth for which the characters in the series have been searching, and it is very much the vision of the United Nations as well. Only for us, it's not a myth. It's absolutely essential, and it is our reason for being here. I'll stop with that. I suppose there'll probably be some questions as well.
Well, so basically... What you're saying is that there are really rules that are so universal that they should apply to everyone, everywhere, at all times, terrorists, criminals, enemies, Cylons, everybody. All right. I just wanted to make sure I had it right. So, to the panel, I'll pose this. Using torture to get critical information, even if the quality of the information is impacted by the methods used, and even if your own values and those of your society become the first victims of these unspeakable acts, for example, the scene we saw with the waterboarding, and the obvious parallels to real-world events, you were writing this show before a lot of this was happening, or that the world at large knew it was happening. What were you thinking about?
Get the network off my back, David, whatever you do.
Well, some of that was coming out in the press. The first reports were starting to come out when we did the episode that was clipped there called Flesh and Bone in the first season. And we had gotten to a point in the show where we felt like we wanted to do an episode where they captured a Cylon, and that you had the classic scenario that's always bandied about where, you know, you've got the prisoner and he or she supposedly knows where the nuclear warhead is, and what would you do in order to get that information out. And our approach was essentially not to really sort of say, well, guess what, torture's bad. It was essentially to say it happens, it's going to happen in this scenario, and what does this do to the human beings that participate in it on both sides of that? What does it do to not just the person who's being tortured and trying to get that information from them, but also what does it do to the people who are in charge of it, the person that's in the room, the president who has to order it? And it was essentially an opportunity to simply have the audience think about these issues and these questions. I think that the show tried very hard over the course of its run not to sort of say, guess what, here's the answer to these problems, here's how we're going to solve torture, here's how we're going to solve this kind of ticking bomb scenario. It was essentially to say, think about this scenario. Put yourself in this scenario from a different point of view. Here is that ticking bomb scenario. He is a Cylon. He is saying he's got a nuclear weapon somewhere in the fleet. We do like Cara Thrace. She's our hero. Now watch her go on this journey and feel what happens in that room back and forth. And it was essentially just trying to sort of take something that was starting to become talked about in the press and sort of bring it into the drama, but not make it sort of a neat, moral dilemma.
No, because in a traditional television show, the audience would have known that Leoben, the terrorist, had the thing that she needed. And so inherently you would have been connected to your heroine, because you would have known that despite the fact that she was doing these terrible things, it was for the greater good because she was getting information that was necessary to save people. We never said he had it. We never said it was absolute. And so instead what you had to do was ask yourself the question that I think we tried to pose throughout the course of the series, which is to the audience, are you rooting for the right side?
And to address what you said, Craig, shame on you, Madam President, it's a very right thing to state, because what the experience was inside the show, because of what David and Ron have said, there isn't a clear point of view here. This is people operating from fear. The experience for Cara Thrace and for the President was one of a great depression and shame, and having to have taken an action that they felt they had no other opportunity but that. But the experience of that is something we wanted to also expose to people, that people who are taking these actions that we find unacceptable are sometimes in positions where they don't see the solution. So how can we begin to, as a culture, develop the alternative thought in those moments and create a different response to that situation?
What about you, Admiral?
I can honestly just say one thing about this, which is unbelievable that we're all here doing this in this manner, and it makes so much sense. It's amazing. You're talking about a science fiction show, and you're talking about the humanity we live in today, which is something that I find incredible. And I still find it incredible, Craig, that we still use the word race as a cultural determinant. To this day, you should have never invited me here.
He always says that.
Because I detest what we've done to ourselves. Out of a need to make ourselves different from one another, we've made the word race a way of expressing culture. There's no such thing, on all you high school students, bless your hearts for being here. You're 100 champions right now that are going to go out understanding this. The adults in the room will never understand it. Even though they'll nod their heads and say, you're right, they'll never be able to stop using the word race as a cultural determinant. I just heard one of the most prolific statements done by one of the great humanitarians. He's really trying to organize and bring us together, and he used the word race as if there is a Latino race, an Asian race, an indigenous race, a Caucasian race, or Latino race. There's no such thing as a Latino race. There never has been. There never has been. There never will be. There's only one race, and that's what the show brought out. That is the human race, period. Now, the pressure comes, why did we start to use the word race as a cultural determinant? The truth is that over 600 years ago, the Caucasian race decided to use it as a cultural determinant so it'd be easier for them to kill another culture. That was the